everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we're back again today to do what we do best here on this channel, which is talk about a Star Trek book. And this is the book in question, Wildfire. And before we jump into that, you're probably asking, where have you been, Josh? It has been far too long since you've been here to talk about a book. I think the last one we did was, I don't know, a couple weeks back at least. And I will tell you the reason for that. Now, I decided to start off kind of the October reading with something different, and I went and read this one right here, The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is, classic haunted house stuff. This was published in 1959, and like I said, I started out my kind of spooky reading with that this month, and that was fantastic. And I'm not even going to go into it. Suffice to say that it is a fine example of a haunted house book, right? Like the perfect example. And it is a book that can easily kind of get inside your head, right? You're kind of right along with the main character as she's going through this. And from start to finish, it kind of had me enthralled. And when it ended, there was literally a time where I just had to kind of like sit for a minute and just be like, whoa, just kind of think on that. So, and then, I was initially going to make a whole video on it, and I decided, nope, that's not really a book I think that you make a video on. You talk about it a little bit, and then you pass it along to somebody else, which I'm going to do with this one, and then you let them enjoy it, right? And then you can talk about it with them. So that's the plan there. So I did that, and that really kind of set the tone for some spooky reading. And I was looking and doing a little bit of research, and I had found that this book here, Wildfire, which is of the Starfleet Corps of Engineers line, was kind of said to be one of the more horror books, and after getting into it now, I definitely see what they're saying here. And one thing, I guess, I kind of went against my own normal instincts when I read a book, and I got some pre-information because I did some research and I wanted to find out, and in doing the research I found out a little bit about the book. Just some things that were said about it, which did kind of not sour the experience, but I think somewhat change it. Maybe change my perception in the end. And we'll get to that as we move along. This book here, again, is book 6 of the collected series, right? The Starfleet Corps of Engineers is a series of, novellas, right? So this is actually, the 6th book is like the 23rd, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, maybe even more than that, because some of these are actually split into 2 different novellas. So anyway, let's get into actually what we're looking at here. Book 6 of this is written, you have 3 stories written by Keith R.A. DiCandido, David Mack, and then J. Stephen York and Christina F. York. Let's read from the back cover here. Whenever there's a need to fix, repair, or salvage, Starfleet calls in the crack SCE team on the USS Da Vinci under the command of Captain David Gold and Commander Sonia Gomez. The SCE solves the unsolvable, from finding a Starfleet vessel lost inside a holographic ship to doping out new technology captured during the Dominion War. Doping out new technology. I don't know what they mean by that. Anyway, I guess they're figuring it out. However, the Da Vinci's mission to Galvin 6 will prove to be the SCE's greatest challenge to date, as they must salvage the USS Orion from the turbulent atmosphere of a gas giant. As if that wasn't enough, the Orion is carrying the prototype of the deadly Wildfire device. Whoa! A proto-matter warhead that can ignite gas giants into stars, and the planet seems to be home to a strange alien life form that may have been responsible for the Orion's destruction. Ooh. So that is just giving you the story on the final story in the book, which is Wildfire, and the one the whole book is named after here. But like I said, there are 3 included here. So the first one And as I was reading it, like I said, I was waiting for like the horror elements, and then I realized when they said Wildfire, they meant the actual novellas Wildfire, not the collected book, right? So the first two books in here, or novellas, I should say, Enigma Ship and War Stories, are both. They're both very good stories that expand upon, the Starfleet Corps of Engineers team on the Da Vinci. And again, this is my first foray into any of these books, and I started on 6. Now I very, very badly want to go back to 1 and definitely read through this series, and that's definitely going to get into the lineup for sure. But just getting into this, it was very interesting, I guess. And also for me, I'm typically used to reading longer novels, so it was nice having these 3 shorter stories, especially following up my creepy reading here, right? So it started off with Enigma Ship, right? And Enigma Ship was the one written by the Yorks, I believe. Yeah, Stephen and Christina York. And this was a very fun Star Trek sci-fi kind of mystery thing, right? This ship gets lost, and there's this kind of void in space, and the Da Vinci is sent to figure this out, right? So it's a fun little mystery, and you get to see kind of a little bit of the engineering know-how of each of them, right? And I also love how Sonia Gomez is like the lead in these books too. I think that's fantastic. I didn't know that going in. I just knew that they brought her character back into Lower Decks, which I thought was really cool. And just now I'm really excited to get into more of these and kind of see what this crew gets into. Now, I think I'm going to save the main meat of the talk here today for Wildfire. So we're going to kind of gloss over Enigma Ship and War Stories, right? Oh man, War Stories is pretty good though. Anyway, Enigma Ship, interesting kind of sci-fi mystery. We won't even get into it too much, but let's just kind of go over some of the characters here. The captain of the Da Vinci is Captain Gold. His first officer, of course, Sonia Gomez. Chief of Security is Dominica Corsi. Duffy, I believe, is the second officer. There is some interesting characters on here, too. Binar. So the Binars, who were, of course, in like the first season of TNG, they worked in pairs. This is a single Binar, and I love his name. His name, as a Binar without a partner, is Solomon. Solo Man, right? It's perfect. I love it. So he's an interesting character. There is a character called P8, who's basically like a bug-like character. And it's always fun when in the books they can include these characters that they couldn't put into the series, right? So a lot of interesting characters included. They're able to solve the mystery successfully and work their way through it. And since it's a novella, it comes to kind of a quick conclusion, and boom, you're on to the next one. And then the next one is even shorter. You got War Stories. And with that, it's kind of an interesting setup. You have this Andrasi named Biren, and he has collected some logs from the Da Vinci. Apparently he has faced them in the past, must be in book 1 through 5, and now he's trying to learn more about them, right? So in doing so, he is reading through these old logs that he got from someone, and these logs are basically giving him these war stories, right? So you get to hear what the crew was doing during the Dominion War. And again, I'm not going to go into each individual story, but all of them are very, very good. With the finale being the Da Vinci going in and kind of doing this pivotal attack to set off another attack in another sector, right? That made for a big swing in the Dominion War. So there are some interesting things going on there. Also a very interesting little story with the doctor after she suffers a catastrophic emergency in sickbay, loses all of her help, and is left to kind of deal alone during this emergency. So very good stuff there. I love that. Now, and War Stories, that of course is the Keith R.A. DiCandido story. And again, very well done. But what we came here for, and what I was looking for the whole time, with, kind of this whole spooky Trektober theme I was going with, is getting a kind of a horror themed Trek book. And yes, this is probably like the best one. And it's not your classic scary movie horror, ghost story horror, that kind of thing. This is like your disaster movie kind of horror. Like, I mean, that was like a big thing back in the day. There were a million of the disaster movies, you know, with the Dante's Peak and Volcano, and then they got bigger and better from there with all the world-ending movies and all sorts of things. But this is like a disaster movie, and I did read a little bit. Man, there was so much in here. So I'm not going to go over everything, but of course the Voyages of the Imagination will give you all the inside information on the books here. But basically, David Mack had always wanted to write a submarine sinking story, that kind of thing. And once I read that, man, that's exactly what was going on. And it was perfectly horrific and scary and tension building, and it really went where a Star Trek book hasn't gone before, right? For me, at least. I'm sure maybe there are others out there that have kind of been this dark, but this one definitely takes the cake as far as what I've read, right? And man, the way that it's done, he really makes you feel it too. Okay, like I actually was feeling it. Oh, dude, I called the YouTube dude. No, there is a line in here. Oh my God, I have to find it now. Anyway, while I'm looking through here, I'm going to continue to talk. It was such a good line. Oh, I found it. Yes. Okay, perfect. We're going to stop that right there. There's a lot of good lines in this book, to be honest with you. All right. We're just going to talk about it now. They are sent to rescue the USS Orion. The USS Orion is kind of trapped in a gas giant. They were working on this experimental device called the Wildfire, which would ignite a sun and make it do something else. Turn it into turn a useless sun into something they could gather energy from, right? Also, as a weapon, it could be incredibly devastating if it could do such things to a sun. So they're sent to investigate and rescue, right? They get there, and I'm not going to be able to cover everything in this. I think we're just going to kind of skip towards when we really get into the meat of it. When they find the ship, that is when the kind of the horror aspect of it actually begins. In their initial away team mission, they go aboard and everybody is just burnt. Like the whole ship has been flooded with like superheated something, and everyone and everything is just burnt, completely burnt. So no chance of recovery of any crew members, anything like that. So already, you're starting off very dark, right? Now the mission here, though, that they've been sent on is twofold. Try to recover the Orion, but they need to recover the Wildfire device, And right now it is currently set to detonate. So they're on like a little bit of a timer. They've got to get it. They've got to get out of there. So they send a team to go in there and get it. And that team is, it's led by Duffy, the second officer, right? He's trying to get basically the casing off of this thing. He's not able to get it out. In the meantime, like, they're getting racked by these storms. They're getting messed up by all sorts of stuff. And kind of like the worst happens, basically, right? Everything goes wrong. The ship that they're trying to like rescue and salvage comes crashing into them. And now you have your sinking submarine story, that he was going for. And from that point on, it is just a tense and again, it is there like a very big horror element where you keep having these scenes of. All right, so like imagine the ship, right? You got your nice starship here. Do I have a starship I can just pick up to hold to show you guys? Here we go. Sure. We've got a starship. Look at this. So you got your starship here, right? Now the outer hull of your starship, you're starting to crumple, right? So these outer hulls are crumpling as you are losing power. Now, they've already had to eject the warp core, right? Basically, it was chief engineer's quick thinking and decision that kind of saved the ship. If they didn't eject, it was going to blow. He ejected it, but in doing so, all of the engineering team was sucked out into space, right? And I think they might have been kind of like the main first losses of the crew. But then after that, just example after example of like a heroic action by this crew member who is pushing people to get through this bulkhead and then seals it off just at the last moment before the superheated hydrogen, comes and kills her, right? And on the bridge, you have Captain Gold, who's, giving orders, trying to keep things under control. When his security officer sees he's about to be crushed, he jumps to his rescue, pushes him out of the way. The security officer is crushed to death. Captain Gold gets his hand crushed under the wreckage, and he's kind of out of the game right there. So, multiple other, engineers, officers, medical officers. At the end, actually, there's a spot here in the end where the captain kind of is giving his final log, and he's got to go over the full list of all that was lost. And at the end, it comes up to be a total of 23 of the crew, like this huge amount, But, and we're getting ahead of ourselves. So disaster after disaster strikes, basically. And as energy is running out, they have no more warp core. They're running off of battery power, and they're basically structural, and the structural integrity field, its ability to protect the ship is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. So as that happens, the outer hull is crushing and crushing and crushing more, and getting to less and less habitable zones, right? But the crew of the Da Vinci is not going to give up that easy, right? So they hatched this insane last-minute plan, right? I'm kind of forgetting this one part too, where Duffy had this kind of strange encounter with this bright white light creature, right? I don't know, something more is going on here, right? Anyway, they're going down. Basically, they're either going to get sucked further into the atmosphere and crushed, or the wildfire device is going to ignite and blow up the whole dang thing, right? So one way or the other, time is running out. Sonia Gomez pulls it together, right, and gets out there, and they come up with this plan basically to salvage the warp core from the Orion, install it into the Da Vinci, cold start it, and use that energy to get out of there. It's crazy enough to work, right? So they set that plan into motion. However, the second plan is they need to shut down the wildfire device. Duffy, is the second officer, is the one that is going to send himself to do it. However, he knows it's a one-way trip. Basically, the atmosphere soup is delicious here. Anyway, the atmosphere suit, they jury rig it up, they make it as powerful as they can, but he knows he's only got enough power to get to the thing and disarm it. Definitely not enough time to make it back. So it's a one-way trip, and the captain knows that, and he knows it, right, going into it. He doesn't tell Sonia Gomez. I didn't tell you guys earlier. They're like kind of in love, and earlier in the book, he proposed to her, and she didn't say anything. And he walked away, and they never resolved it, right? Oh my God, it's so crazy. Anyway, it's so good. This book is so good. So Duffy leaves the ship, heading towards the wildfire device, right? Sonia Gomez is in charge of engineering, getting things ready so that they can do the cold start as soon as Stevens and P8 make it back with the warp core. So everybody has something to do, and they kind of keep switching between. Poor Duffy, he is out there getting crushed by the atmospheres, going through incredible pain, makes it to the device, disarms the device, and then starts falling further into the atmosphere, right? Back on the Orion, they get the warp core off, they get it back to the Da Vinci, they're able to get it in, and this is the really good part. Um, so as they get the warp core back in, basically, uh, Gomez calls out to Duffy. She's like, "Get your butt back here. We need your help." And he's like, I'm not coming back, basically. And that's when she realizes, like, that's it. He's not going to be able to make it back. And she kind of like breaks down, for like a second. And then let's just read this. Through the blurred lenses of her tear-filled eyes, she noticed that all other activity in main engineering had ground to a halt. Can't fall apart, she told herself. If you're weak, these people die. Get up. Get up. Oh, so good. Oh. Let's go, people, Gomez said, loud enough to be heard a deck away. We have 12 minutes to restore main power, and I don't plan to be late. Oh, so good. And then here at the very end of the book, they have literally, you get Duffy's life flashing before his eyes as he's kind of falling into this gas giant, where it's then revealed, of course, in the interior of the gas giant, you've got this whole species of people that, super evolved beings that have decided they wanted to eschew physical contact, so they live in a gas giant, right? So Duffy's act of sacrifice saved them. They were actually the ones that killed the crew of the Orion because they were kind of like trying to fight back, right? So Duffy's able to kind of smooth it over with them, and again, you get like he's flashing through his life and everything. You get all of his different experiences, and then he falls kind of into the planet, kind of goes away, right? And then you go back to the ship. Things are really tense, getting right down to the very last minute. The captain is on the bridge with like the only two people who really can't help with engineering very much and are there to basically hit the button to go as soon as the power turns on. The power's fading and fading and fading and getting darker and darker, and then all of a sudden, that sound, the power, the sound that when power comes back on a starship, right? That comes, the power comes on, he hits the button, boom, they make it out. Wow. Pretty dark book. A lot of people died. In the end, they're in orbit around the gas giant. They see this bright light coming up. It's carrying Duffy's body. He's coming back. They bring it back to the ship. He comes aboard. They do everything they can. He's still dead. They couldn't bring him back. David Mack was saying in the Voyages of the Imagination, initially, I guess he had written a happy ending, which I'm supposing Duffy survived. Man, going with this one was so good, right? And it's, again, I'm going to go back to what I was saying. When I was reading about the book, some of the comments said like, oh, they went there. That was unexpected. Then when this happened, I was in my head already thinking, oh, he's not coming back. He's really dead. So, yeah, he was totally dead. And, man, the book ended on this kind of, like, really sad note, with, like, Sonia Gomez, like, heartbroken, clutching the ring that he'd given her, and she puts it on her finger. Oh, so good. What a book. Again, I'm glad that I did the research, but I wish I did a little bit less reading on the research and just, like, gotten the title and been like, boom, all right, we're going to read it. Now, final point here, and for anyone here sticking around for this long as I rant about this great book, thank you. That's really cool of you. I did not plan this to be this way. Now, what am I reading next, you might say? It's another book with fire in the title by David Mack. I didn't plan it to be this way. This is the newest Star Trek book that's available now. Ring of Fire by David Mack. I just finished Wildfire by David Mack. That is a strange coincidence, right? I mean, come on. Anyway, we're going to get into this. Again, the newest Star Trek book on Strange New Worlds. We already know David Mack is a beast of a writer, so this is going to be good. And, again, just glad to see new Trek stuff coming out, right? So any new Trek book we're going to get into and we're going to enjoy. It might not exactly be spooky Trektober reading, but it's going to be fun nonetheless. So stay tuned for Wildfire. Stay tuned for Ring of Fire coming soon, because we did just finish Wildfire, right? And it was so good. You got to read that book. Ooh, read this one too. As always, my friends, thanks for listening. Live long and prosper. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night.